This is Jack Fishman behind the camera speaking with Christopher Seaman, the conductor and artistic advisor of the San Antonio Symphony. And Christopher, we've been talking about conducting and how much of the conductor's job is what happens at rehearsals and what is he really doing at performance?
Well, the conductor really has three stages. The rehearsal is the second stage, the performance is the third stage. But the first stage is the most time-consuming stage because most of the conductor's work is done before he even sees the orchestra. By which I mean you have to learn the score and you have to really know it, because the orchestra can tell in 5 minutes whether you really know, or actually I could tell in 30 seconds, whether a conductor, and so could the orchestra in fact, whether a conductor has learnt the score like a piano conductor part with a tune and an accompaniment and no more specifics about who plays what, or whether he's really studied the full score. The process of studying, I find, the most helpful way is to keep reading it through. Sometimes you read the music through from beginning to end. Well, how do you do that, you may say? Well, a conductor has been trained, or should have been trained, to look at a score and in his mind hear what it sounds like. And that is part of what a conductor should do. And if a conductor cannot do that, he's got a very important part of his musical equipment missing. That machine that enables you to look at a score and then it get to your mind, as it were, into your ear, you dream how it sounds from looking at it, is the same machine running in reverse as this machine. You are told to write a piece of music, compose it, without a piano. So you have to hear the music and then write it down. With learning a score, you see the music and then hear it. It's exactly the same process working both ways, and all conductors should be trained to do that. As you read the score through and through, more details become apparent to you. And during the process of reading it through, you gradually make it your own, and it gets into your brain. Above all, it gets into your heart, because the music's getting into your heart, not just your brain. And during that process, a way of doing it, for which the fancy schmancy word is interpretation, will gradually dawn on you. It doesn't hurt to listen to recordings occasionally, but a real sign of artistic maturity is having studied a piece, you listen to a recording, you think, oh, I don't quite agree with the way he does that bit. That's artistic maturity and independence. And if the conductor's a big name, believe me, all the big name conductors did not want to be mimicked, aped, and copied by younger conductors. They wanted the young conductors to be themselves. So when you learn a score, you've got what the composer wrote on the page, you've got the ability to vary it a little, because no composer I have ever met was fundamentalist about the notes that they wrote on the page. Often, when they conducted their own music, they would do it wildly differently on different occasions. Brahms said he would like to write a new metronome mark every day. You know the metronome, tick-tock, tick-tock, that sets the tempo. He'd like to change it every day because they'd pay him every day and he'd want it different every day. That's Brahms, that classical among romantic composers. So your interpretation dawns on you and you have in your mind an ideal, a kind of an ideal. Then you face the orchestra and then your ears have to flap, because you have to listen and compare what you hear with the ideal that you have in your mind. Sometimes it's the same. Sometimes it's better than you even dreamed of. Be glad. Often it's not quite what you dreamed of, and at that point you have to rehearse it. Now, it may not be as good as you dreamed of because the orchestra can't play it because it's difficult, so you have to rehearse technically. We'll do this bit a little bit slower. Now there's a chord on there, it's not quite out of tune. Listen, I think that F sharp needs to cut. That's it, that's in tune now, thank you very much. And when you rehearse, when it's right, always acknowledge it, because rehearsing, although it's done in a very pastoral way, is in fact pointing out what is not right, which nobody likes. But you do it in such a way that encourages what is right. Now we need a little more sound from the strings here. You don't say, strings, that's too quiet. You don't say, flute, that's sharp. You say, I think that F sharp may need to come down a little. There's a way of working with an orchestra whereby you are alongside them, you have a common goal, and you are working at it together. But the orchestra does look to the conductor for leadership and to take responsibility and to be really musically on top of it. Balanced. You often have to balance things at the rehearsal. Everyone plays what's on the part, that's fine. But if all the parts are written fortissimo, if everyone plays fortissimo, you won't hear maybe the strings, you won't hear maybe the woodwind, or the strings will be too loud, there's a flute solo. So you have to balance and make the orchestra aware of what needs to be heard and what needs not to drown it. That's very important. Then the expressive, the emotional side of the music. Well, now, the orchestra need to see at the rehearsal the music has reached your heart. But there's something that has to happen at the concert more than happens at the rehearsal, and it's usually on the emotional side. And at the concert, it's too late to fix anything anyway. You let go a little bit more within the parameters of not thrashing around so much that it falls apart. You look at people a lot. Eye contact's very important. Not to police the orchestra, but to involve the orchestra. And I was taught, and many conductors I hope are taught, when you look at a string section, always look at the back. Because if you look at the back, you include everybody. If you look at what I call the royal family, the front stands of strings, you exclude nearly everybody. And so by making everyone feel, I can make a difference to this concert. That's what musicians need to know. I showed up, I'm in a bad mood, I had a hangover this morning, my goldfish just died, whatever it was, I can make a difference to this concert, and this conductor knows it, and he expects me to do it. So we work as a team, but the orchestra do expect musical leadership.
Thank you, Christopher.